Are you extremely competitive? Maybe super ambitious? Maybe you're really driven and you are such a success. In today's episode, we are talking all about the type threes. I've just listed off a few of the traits that we know type threes have, and I can't wait to dive into this episode today. Welcome to the Enneareal podcast, Women, Moms, Real Estate, and the Enneagram. I'm your host, Melody Wilson, a certified Enneagram and real estate coach. If you're a high-achieving realtor mom looking to find balance and unlock your full potential, you're in the right place. In this podcast, we explore the intersection of women, real estate, and the Enneagram. Join me as I provide Enneagram insights and practical tools tailored specifically for women in the real estate industry. Together, we'll uncover strategies to navigate the unique challenges and opportunities and find harmony in all areas of your life. So today we are talking all about type 3 Enneagram, also known as the achiever. And what we're going to dive into, of course, I'm going to be relating it to YouTube because that's kind of our theme going on right now. But I know that we're introducing you maybe for the first time as an agent to this whole Enneagram concept. And you're wondering, okay, what am I going to do when it comes to learning about them? So I have my trusty notes here from the Enneagram University where we talked last week through all of the type 1 Enneagram. And I know I skipped type 2, but you're going to have to stay tuned later for type 2. I've mixed things around to make sure that, again, self-awareness journey is all about learning about everyone's type, not just your own. As you learn about all the different ones, you will realize that one you'll relate to stronger, and then you'll also be able to see the relationships that you have and how they can look, because they're actually all related in one sense of the other. Sometimes you've got Enneagram types moving into certain types in strength and in their weakness. So you do want to learn all of the Enneagram types. So we're going to start off with the core qualities when it comes to the Enneagram. The core qualities for the Enneagram is core fear. Your core fear is failure, being exposed, invaluable, or seen as worthless. So right away, we're diving right into it. And if you kind of felt super uncomfortable when I was reading that, you might want to consider that this might be a type that you resonate with, because maybe this is actually you. The core desire is to achieve, to be respected, seen as successful, admirable, and a role model. And the core weakness, now the word deceit is what their core weakness is. So in an effort to kind of be everything to everybody, you end up not knowing who you are yourself, but people around you don't know who you are because they're known to shapeshift. And if you ever watched growing up when you're really young, this is dating me, there was these shapeshifters. I can't even remember. It was like Barbarera, I think it is. They shapeshifted to whatever they needed to be. This is definitely a type 3 trait. And this can be a very good thing, makes you really good with people, but it also can be something that's a really bad thing when it comes to manipulation. It can be used improperly, and even just for yourself as a self-aware individual, you end up losing the fact that you don't even know who you are yourself. So your core message is you don't need to earn love. You are already loved for who you are. And your core differentiator, so this is like your strength, your ability to sense others' perceptions and adjust accordingly is a huge strength that you have. So as a realtor, this is very helpful because we deal with people all the time. And if you're able to read people's perceptions without them saying it, and you can kind of sense things, you're able to adapt, you're able to talk to people, and you're able to make people feel comfortable, which is a very good trait to have. Now, when we look at their strengths and struggles, we kind of talked a little bit about that already. In this Enneagram University write-up, it says they are charming, friendly, and energetic. They thrive in leadership roles and want their groups and teams to succeed. They're hardworking, competent, and not afraid of challenge or some friendly competition. They have a positive outlook, are easily able to cast vision for great opportunities, while also thinking through how to get from point A to point B effectively, and efficiently. So they're really strong. Enneagram type threes have a really good traits if you are a team leader, if you're looking to join a team and you're thinking, this person's amazing. A type 3 is very common, actually found in real estate. I see a lot of type 3s, I see a lot of type 7s. So they're, to me, the most dominant types I've seen in real estate. And if you take a look at their struggles, they do have little tolerance for anyone who slows down their mission. So they are on a mission, they're ambitious, they're ready to go, tend to be workaholics. And if you're getting in their way, they don't want you around. They're going to be annoyed. They often think their way is the best, and which can cause tension. Now, they don't like conflict. They're conflict avoidant, but they may cut corners when working on tasks because their satisfaction comes from the completion of the task, not necessarily the process, but just the fact they can check off that box. So they're the kind of people that have a checklist, that check it off just so that it's done. However, a type 1 that we talked about last time, they got to do their task perfectly. So if it's not done perfectly, there is no satisfaction that that task was completed because they know it wasn't done the best they could have done it. Whereas a type 3 is just happy with progress. So last time I talked about type 1s really need to emphasize progress over perfection. Type 3s, progress over perfection is their MO, but sometimes they need to look at maybe too much progress is not always a good thing when you're rushing into things and going to get success so quickly. That may not always be a good thing, and you want to be able to have that time for self-reflection. Their image is very important to them, and they may alter their own self expression in an attempt to express or gain admiration. So they want to gain people's approval, and they will morph themselves so they can get that approval. So if one room says that the approval is about not getting recognition, then they're going to not want recognition. This is called what is it? The false humility, which drives me crazy, especially as an 8. And then when it comes to constantly comparing themselves, they actually feel shamed when others perform better than them. So it's really important that, they are being seen as like a really strong person and that they're really good at what they do, but it's not necessarily something that is accurate. So if I take a look, I actually pulled up, I asked ChatGPT, that's a cheat mode, of like, what are some other things that type threes look like? So I would pull up the list, and this is what it says. They're seen as competitive, ambitious, confident, adaptable, charming, energetic. This is true. Type threes have a lot of energy. Image conscious, that's something we talked about earlier. Um, and achievement orientated, we talked about that as well. Sociable and goal focused. So I wanted to bring these up so that you could see if you relate um, to all that, right? Because if you're a type 3 and you're saying, oh my gosh, she's literally speaking my language, then it's important for you to kind of see that this is maybe a type that you relate to. And when it comes to challenges that you may face, um, type 3s, we talked a little bit about their challenges. They have a hard time not wanting to be a failure. And so that ends up driving you to work a lot sometimes, and you just want to achieve someone's admiration all the time. So like for example, your clients, you want to be the best realtor you can possibly be. So that could make you a really good realtor, but could also have some major problems with boundaries. And so when it comes to your family, which boundary are you breaking? Because at the end of the day, you are putting one over the other. And when we talk about this in the context of YouTube, now a YouTube type 3 realtor might think to themselves, okay, I got to be amazing at this. He's got 10,000 subscribers. I want 50. I want 1,000,000, and I'm going to do it in 3 months. So they're looking at the vanity metrics. That's what they're actually called. And they're not looking at the quality of what's being put out there and the quality of the results. Because within YouTube, it's not just about how many subscribers you have. It's about how many people are you actually having reach out to you and want to work with you. That to me as a realtor is a bigger measure for YouTube success than the vanity metrics. So type 3s are very driven to go that direction, but the challenges they may face is they don't see what the true challenge is, right? They're kind of re-looking at things that way. Now let's take a look at some of the other things that type 3s are known for and their weaknesses. So they have a hidden side. So they seem really confident and successful, but in truth, they're really concerned about what people think of them, and they steadily feel insecure and as if they're not doing enough. So they fear being exposed and found out and discovered as a fraud. So in order for them to, break free of that, they have to really understand who they are and that they truly are enough the way they are. And that is something quite difficult for any of us to accept, because when you're a mom, you just maybe don't feel like you're ever enough. There's a messaging there that you might have learned when you were younger as well, that what you do is not good enough. And so we did talk about that last time, about childhood messages, that it's not okay to have your own feelings and identity. And then it gets internalized as you grow older, and leads to that message where you only are good and okay if you do something valuable, that you contribute. And so that's really hard, because let's slow down here for a second. If that is the messaging that you are hearing, if you slow down enough to think, this is what I feel like has influenced me, that's a very deep wound. And in order to be able to figure that out and source it, you've got to be able to, just determine what truly started that. And in all respect, it's not about bashing your history or your upbringing. It's just making a recognition of where you're coming from and going, how do I move forward from this? How do I allow myself to be vulnerable and still be able to achieve? And we are going to talk about that. So just hold on for that. Now, last time we also talked about wings. So wings, I'll just remind you, the Enneagram is a circle. And in the circle, I will have this image for next week, if you're watching us on video, is the 1 to 9 number. And it goes in a circle. So the 1, the wings are 9 and 2. But in the Enneagram 3 type, they've got, yes, you guessed it, the type 2 is on the left side and the type 4 is on the right side. So an Enneagram 3 wing 2 is nicknamed the star. So this person is warmer, more encouraging, intimate, social, charming, enjoying being the center of attention, and can be seductive by manufacturing the image of being kind, selfless, and helpful. So they tend to champion others' successes, because 2 is also known as the helper. We haven't gone through 2s yet, but they are a helper. And when you are a 3 wing 2, how are you a 3 wing 2 versus a 2 wing 3? The core fear is how you truly identify. So if the core fear of a 2 is more resonating with you than a core fear of a 3, then you would be a 2 with a 3 wing. So this is why I'm saying Enneagram is a very in-depth tool. So you'll want to continue listening and learning and learning and learning. And eventually you will be able to understand. This is not a quick fix. Hey, I'm going to learn my personality type and then I'm going to know all the things. It is definitely a long haul. Now, a 3 wing 4 is known as the professional. The 4 is known as the individualistic, or someone who's romantic. They've got a certain image that they feel is, they just have a certain way of doing things, and they're all about the feeling. So a type 3 is also very much a feelings heavy person. So we talk about the triads. There is the heart triad, the head, and the gut triad. The triads just mean a grouping of 3. And the heart triad are people that are heart heavy, which means there's an imbalance of using the heart to make decisions versus the other 2 areas. And the type 2, 3, and 4 all fall into that. The 3s definitely, sometimes when you look at a 3 and a 4, you think, well, there's no way they're the same thing. But I'll read you what the Enneagram University says about being the professional. They are more focused on work and success. They are more sensitive, introspective, artistic. This is the 4 side coming out, imaginative, and pretentious. They tend to feel very torn between projecting a pleasing, admirable image and being their authentic self. So 4s actually are quite concerned about being authentic, and 3s don't know what authenticity is all the time, not because they don't know what authenticity is. It's just so used to morphing around all the time that they've kind of forgotten who they really are. So that is something interesting. As we dive more into the different numbers and you learn about them, you'll see why they're in that conflicting space. So like I said, heart center is the feeling triad. It's the center of intelligence and how they make decisions. They tend to engage in life through their hearts, and They are repressed. So that's something I don't want to overwhelm you guys as you listen and go, there's just so much things. There are types, there's 3 types in the 9 types that are repressed. And what does repressed mean? It means that their center of intelligence, whether it's heart, head, or mind, is doesn't look like the other 2 in the triad. So basically the 3s are repressed in the same area they're dominant in. So they're repressed in their hearts and in even though they're dominant in it. So that this means that 3s feel a lot, but not in a way that is healthiest or best for them. They subconsciously use their hearts to read others and become whoever they feel they should be, but their attention is focused outward and their ability to introspect suffers. They often struggle to be in touch with their own feelings and sense of self. So they feel that emotions are unproductive and get in the way of them achieving what they want to get done. And feelings also make them vulnerable, which puts their image at risk. So 3s intend to come back to their feelings at some point, but yet rarely make the time to do it. So I know it's a lot to take in, but it's important to talk about this because if you're trying to figure out if you're a 3 and you say, "Well, I think feelings get in the way. I can't be a 3 because I'm not heart-centered." Well, I just read you basically the fact that if you are a 3, there's a repressed center of the feelings, and that's how 3s do typically feel and can relate. I mean, at the beginning, I actually thought I was a 3, and because I feel like emotions get in the way, I'm an 8, not a 3. So there's definitely, you have to learn and understand everything when it comes to that. Now, we talked also about the arrows. So we've got the core qualities we talk about. We talked about the wings and the strengths and weaknesses. And now we're covering arrows. So arrows is going to be the section we cover where it's basically where do you what do you look like when you're stressed? What do you look like when you're in health and growth? And keep in mind, most of us live in stress. We might think we live in health, but a lot of times we live in stress, especially if you're being honest with yourself as a realtor, right? Because realtors, we live in a state of stress all the time. So, a 3, when they're in health and growth, they move to the positive traits of a 6. And the positive traits of a 6 are being cooperative, collaborative, people focused, aware of your feelings. This is when you're in growth, right? When you're in stress, you actually move to unhealthy parts of a 9. 9 is very conflict avoidant. They're disengaged, withdrawn, apathetic, self-doubting, and they kind of like veg right out. They don't want to engage. They want to go home, turn on the TV, watch a bunch of Netflix and just drown out all of reality and just kind of disengage. So that's when you can tell you're in stress. If you are finding yourself coming home and putting on some comfy clothes and watching your Netflix binge watching, you might be in stress. Now, I'm not saying when you do that, you're always in stress, but just take a quick look and see if that's something you relate to. And when you take a look at these arrows, this is a great strategy when it comes to you're struggling with YouTube. How do I grow with YouTube? Well, when you're in growth, you can be collaborative. You can be people focused. You can talk to other agents. You can be vulnerable to kind of find out what their success is. They'll share with you, you'll share with them, but you can't get there if you're not in health. And so I talk about self awareness as being so important because we are trying to achieve the success in real estate so that we can accomplish things, but you can't really accomplish things if you're not in a state of health. If you are in a state of stress, it's going to be very difficult for you to even get your butt off the couch and make some videos. It seems like it'd be really easy because even if you're in average healthland, you would be able to tap into your 3ness and just turn on that camera, hit record, and just start trying to emulate somebody that you know that is successful in YouTube. Now, YouTube is important to understand that you will attract your like. So if you want people that are like you, or there's an ideal client you're looking at, you got to think about what do they want to hear? And you're really good at this. You know that this type of person really needs all these things to be seen, heard, and feel like they're important. So that's a strength that you can bring to YouTube. Think about your ideal client and commit to that ideal client niche, and you will see your success. But some of the things that may hold you back are maybe deeper. It's not just about, I don't have time. Now, that's another thing. Type threes like to say they're busy all the time because usually they are, but they take pride in that. They wear it as a badge of honor. I think a lot of us are guilty of this because all of us, regardless of our type, we live in a society where we're all about the different, just wanting to showcase how busy we are because we believe that's showcasing success. But I want you to understand that if you're that busy in all these things, what are the things that are really important? If you have children, if you're a mom, are you so busy with work that you've forgotten the kids? That really stings and it hurts, right? Because we look at your agenda, look at your bank account, and you will see where your priorities are. And it is important, and it's a huge wake up call to just realize I don't want this in my life. I actually want to know what is success in my world, not striving for success in the world's definition. So it's really important that you take that time. And I know we're getting really deep, but that's what this podcast is all about, kind of diving deep to kind of do that self awareness journey. So let's talk about some strategies on how you can showcase your vulnerability without compromising your image when you are doing this. Because when you're trying to succeed, like I just talked about earlier, it's really important that you are looking at ways to connect with people. And sometimes you're so worried about people seeing you unsuccessfully, but they do see you trying to mask that up. Now, maybe they don't all the time, but you want to just make sure you spend some time reflecting in a safe space, reflecting with yourself, reflecting with people that you truly trust. Um, if you, we'll talk about this in some other episodes of relationships with other types. Type threes can really thrive from being with different types of relationships that will help them get to this core. So continue listening to the episodes and see which type do you think a type 3 would really grow from and feel challenged with when it comes to just being authentic and genuine, because they're going to need to be authentic and genuine in their strategies to grow in showcasing themselves. Like they need to see, what does it look like to showcase myself, and does that truly make me look like I'm weak? Does it make that person look weak? You can kind of take a look at that. Take a look at things. And also, the biggest one is be patient with yourself. In self awareness journey, patience is key. And type threes, we like to succeed quickly and fast, and we want to see results now. That's not how self awareness journey works. You have to take some time. Now, here's some other things that you can do. You can talk about building a loyal audience by fostering genuine connections through that vulnerability. And like I said earlier, because you know your niche, you know what they need and what they want to hear. So you can build a really loyal audience when it comes to that, right? Like it's so important that you're actually being who you need to be for those people. And they're like, I can relate to that agent. I'm going to call that agent up. They seem to know a lot, right? They seem to understand what I'm looking for. Their niche, let's say their niche is helping other people move from out of province. They see all the people they're helping from out of province and I really like that person. So this is a hint for content for you. Maybe the educational type might be good because educational doesn't tend to make you have to be vulnerable. You can just go through and showcase your success as well because you are a knowledgeable person because you want to be successful in the industry. So education could be a good one. The entertainment type of content could be good if you're in a place of health and you can have fun, because I know type threes love to have fun. But if they're not in a space where it is stress free, they could end up looking like a little forced. Edutainment is a thing. So you could do that kind of content in your YouTube content as well. And you know what? Don't just chase your success as a type 3. Make sure that your growth is more important to you. You should be chasing, if anything, chase your health. Chase your health, redefine your definition of a success, and all the people around you will really appreciate, you included. Your physical health is going to like really enjoy that you're actually paying attention. Now, I know some type 3s might really love, for example, Orange Theory, because you can get to the top, get to be the first one, burn the most amount of splat points. But if that's still not doing the ultimate goal of what you need it to be doing, then what was the point of hitting like 500 spot points, for example? And as women, it's kind of frustrating because we can't actually hit 500 half the time because we bust our butts off and we're like at 200. We all are different when it comes to that, right? So as a mom, I like to talk about being a mom as well too. Make sure that when you're trying to be successful, to be gracious to yourself, be patient with yourself. You are a successful mom. You are enough. You don't need to be all things to all people. Your children, your family is more important than your clients. Don't forget that ever. Sometimes I think we forget that because we're trying to be successful, and then we get mom guilt because we're trying to be successful and then our kids are being neglected, but also realize your kids are supporting you and want you to be successful. So I think there is a way to have a win win. When you are driven, it's a really good thing. When you are efficient and effective as a type three, that's a really good thing. You've got so many strengths that can help you figure out what you can do in the most effective way. Make sure you get that kid time in. Make sure you get in that hangout time, date night. Make sure you get that time in for your clients to make them feel super valued. Just be careful of your boundaries and your phone because you might think, I don't want to not respond to those clients because they'll not feel comfortable. But what is that saying to who you're with? Are you with your spouse on a date and you just keep on your phone and you say, oh, my spouse understands? I guarantee you, your spouse is way more understanding than you should have because I have one of those. So they're not going to necessarily complain. They might, but when it comes to that complaining stage, it's kind of gotten to a point where it's beyond, they've already tolerated it beyond what they want to. And I would highly recommend that you don't wait for your spouse to be the one to say something. I would say you do that self-reflective work of boundaries. How do you set boundaries with your clients so that they know that they're being held number one? I'll give you a spoiler alert. I said that so many times last episode, only said it once today, is that your clients actually respect the fact you have boundaries. Now, if your clients don't respect that, then maybe I would take a look at what kind of clients you have. And do you really want those clients? That's a whole nother conversation. But I think it's really important to take a look as a type three. You have so many great traits. uh, I think it's important that you just do some self reflective work on what are your strengths. You're really good at finding those too, but let's see, what are your weaknesses? Take some time to look at your weaknesses. This type is one that's not always looking at their weaknesses. And type one that we talked about last time, they hear about their weaknesses all the time in their head. They could rattle them off so quick and so fast. Type threes, you can't think about your weaknesses that quickly because you don't tend to think about that. So let's take a look at that as we go through the journey of self awareness and take a look through what are your strengths and weaknesses? Where do I go in growth? Where do I go in stress? Start to label and acknowledge, hey, look it. And I've seen people do this. They give someone a name. So let's say my stress piece could be Mallory. Oh, look, Mallory's showing up. That's not good. I need to figure things out to get Melody back, right? It might sound a little weird, but it just labeling the fact that this is not who you are. It's just your stress that's coming out. So hopefully today's episode was great. Subscribe, share with your friends. I can't wait to talk to you next week.